Hello guys, I've read the recent developers note with great interest because for a long time in Chaos Zero Nightmare we lived in the darkness, which it sounds like it fits the theme of the game, but when it comes to new releases, content, combatant, I like to know things a little bit in advance, both because I can prepare to things and also because I have some time during which I feel the excitement, like, oh, it's just one more week, 2 more weeks, and I can do this and that. But yeah, at the very beginning of the game, we didn't know anything about anything until the moment it released. Now they're starting to make developers note that are way more interesting and that also make us look forward to the stuff that is coming very soon. But we talk about Arabella a bit later. I want to talk about the new Great Rift boss, of which I will not even try to pronounce the name, like I refuse to do it. But the reason why I'm really looking forward to this boss is that Yuki might be back on the menu. Because this is an AoE boss. Now, Arabella is a combatant who deals AoE damage, for the most part. Because of that, we get a Rift boss who is AoE centric. Because when a combatant attack card is activated, Dude gains a buff. The more buffs Dude has, the less damage it takes, which is bad, but we can reduce his buffs by defeating the random garbo that he summons. If he accumulates too many buffs, it will unleash a powerful attack, we get obliterated and us blasted and GG's. But the cool thing is that these little dudes do not have an excessive amount of hit points. We have had some great rifts and bosses in the past that had extra stuff to kill with quite a lot of hit points. Meaning that 9 was having a good time, everyone else was having a really bad time. These seem to be little garbo. 6k hit points is not much. And Yuki is going to stomp on them. She's going to have an amazing time. Now, of course, we don't know how many hit points the big dude has, the mechanics, how much damage we actually need to deal to him. But Yuki, after her recent buffs, all her cards now deal more damage, extra damage if there is just one thing on screen. Meaning Yuki can clear the garbo and then hit the dude. I'm really looking forward to it, because I like AoE fights where you destroy a lot of nonsense on screen and things explode rather than, one dude and you just bonk it to death. So for me, combatants like Yuki and the upcoming Arabella are very interesting. I complain about Nine's gameplay a lot all the time, so I will refrain from doing it. Let's talk about Arabella now, our seasonal combatant, but we do not do it via the screen that you see right now. Let me activate some extremely high-tech... There we go. This is a translation from Chinese of the cards of Arabella, the epiphanies in particular, which are the most interesting part. I found them on Reddit. I didn't do it by myself because it takes too long to translate stuff. Now, the cards are very interesting. And I will need to complain a little bit about a manifestigo later when we talk about manifestigos. The way Arabella works is... Let me think. Have you played on Kaista Rail? He is very similar to Kafka, which is a good thing. She applies a fracture, she can trigger all fractures on the enemies, she can trigger her own fracture only, she can trigger the allies' fracture, so everyone in the team. And she deals a ton of damage, a ton of mostly AoE damage, although some cards can also deal more single target damage. Now, the first card, top left, is a relatively basic attack that deals some damage, applies fracture, and based on the epiphany that you pick, you can apply extra fracture, you can increase the damage of her own cards for the rest of the turn by 50%, apply extra fracture based on the buffs, draw 2 of your own cards, we'd always activate my Almond as a Magic the Gathering main blue player, and apply Agony. I will talk about Agony a little bit later. And Scorched. Scorched is the mechanic that if something blows up, it deals damage to everything else. The second card, and I will go to the bottom, is a skill. This is probably, arguably, the most important card for Arabella to have one copy of, because it's a unique. Because it applies Fracture Amplification. Fracture Amplification is a debuff, a status that you apply to an enemy, and it enables all your other cards, most of your other cards, to have extra effects, stronger effects. So you really want to have a way to apply Fracture Amplification at the beginning of the turn as soon as possible before you play the rest of your deck. And again, based on which epiphany you get, you have different effects. You increase your own damage dealt by 20% for each enemy, which in the Great Rift boss is going to be quite a bit. Increase damage based on the amount of debuffs on the enemy. Apply Fracture and Vulnerable to all enemies, increase total damage of own attack cards by 50%, increase own damage dealt by 80% for one turn when an ally defeats an enemy, transfer the target fractures to a random enemy, which... If we talk about the Great Rift, you remember there is a lot of random Garbo that we want to blow up. So if we keep blowing up the random Garbo, eventually a lot of those fracture stacks are going to be moved to the boss. And then there is the upgrade version. At the start of a turn, apply 1 Fracture Amplification and 6 Fracture to the enemy with the highest HP. Out of these, my personal favorite is the upgrade, because it costs 0, and each turn I am guaranteed that at the beginning of the turn I'm applying Fracture Amplification. And what does Fracture Amplification do? We can see it in the next card. Let's go top right. This is a card, an attack card, that has a very basic effect, but if the enemy has a Fracture Amplification, it becomes much better. For example, 60% damage to all enemies and apply 3 Fracture. Okay. If there is a Fracture Amplification available, trigger allies Fracture. All of them. Yours, Hilde's, and Olga's, because the devs hinted that even Olga will be part of the Fracture team. The second one applies damage to all deals damage to all enemies, apply Fracture, triggers own Fracture, so Arabella's own Fracture. Fracture Amplification, trigger own Fracture again. And, all of these cards become much stronger if you have activated Fracture Amplification. And the last card, the one at the bottom, similarly, it's an attack card that deals damage and triggers own Fracture, triggers everyone's ally Fracture, and it has an extra effect if Fracture Amplification is there. Either draw a card or move it back to the hand twice per turn. I didn't talk about the Agony part because I think that one is showcase bait. What I mean by showcase bait is that if you check the first card, top left, Epiphany 5, 60% damage to all enemies, applies 2 Fracture, 4 Agony and 2 Scorched. Then if we move, if we slide to the right, Epiphany 4, 60% damage to all enemies, applies 2 Fracture, 4 and 4 Agony. In case you have Fracture Amplification available, trigger allies Agony. On day 1, there are going to be showcases with Arabella and Tressa. Tressa applying Agony, Arabella triggering it. Arabella will be dealing 5,270,000 damage. Tressa is going to be dealing 5k damage overall. And the showcase will end on a 0 clear turn, 0 turn clear or whatever the showcaser is showcasing, and people in the comments will be like, wow, Tressa is back. I've always been a Tressa believer all along. I'm already feeling triggered because I know it's going to be the first thing that I see when Arabella is released, instantly. Like, I open Reddit, it's not even going to be someone who made a 10 pool and there were 5 Arabellas, or someone who found some secret illegal tech for endless... No, there is going to be some moron who made a Tressa showcase. I know it's going to happen. I want to talk now about the thing that I want to complain about a little bit. Let me go to the next slide, if OBS allows me to. There we go. The Manifestigos. Manifestigo 1 Mythical damage plus 50% for each type of debuff on the target. The total damage bonus per debuff increases from 15% to 20%. Okay, it's a damage increase. The one that I have a problem with is number 2, Awakened Memory. At the start of battle, apply 1 fracture amplification to the enemy with the highest HP. When Arabella triggers her own fracture, apply true fracture to all enemies. This is absolutely bonkers. It's absolutely busted. Because fracture amplification is there right from the start of the battle, so you do not need to wait until you actually draw the card. And in addition to that, it also increases damage because she's applying extra fractures to all enemies when she triggers her own fracture. That is all good, but it's like creating a problem and selling the solution to a certain extent. It's a very common thing that combatants have a card that they need as a setup starter. So you play that card and then you do your things. The favorites built in Manifestigo 2 bothers me a little bit. I would have preferred Manifestigo 2 was select an enemy, it dies, even if it's the Great Rift boss. It would have made me happier. Like, yeah, power creep, let's go. Not all her kit revolves around the application of fracture amplification. Oh, Manifestigo 2 does it automatically. I might as well remove the card that does it from the deck. Probably not, because that card still has some other effects and buffs. But her Manifestigo 2 being so strong bothers me a little bit. Although, to be fair, even Serenial and Haidemari, the previous seasonal combatants, had very strong Manifestigo 2. But not to this point. I would say Serenial Manifestigo 2 was excellent, but it didn't change the way she played. Haidemari's Manifestigo 2 felt stronger than Serenial, especially in Sortie, when Haidemari at the start that doesn't really do much, depending on which card you get at the beginning of a run. But that Manifestigo 2 makes things much, much easier. And this Awakened Memory looks absolutely bonkers. The rest is increased damage. I will not be talking about it much because it's literally increased damage to ludicrous extent. And overall, I'm very happy about the way Arabella looks, her animations. I always have a problem with Giga Badonkers, the massive size of which can only be compared to cantaloupes, because it means that it's a character that if I'm on the couch laying down and I'm playing the game and my little daughter, who is 7 years old, comes by to check what I'm doing, I need to hide it. And if I am on the bus during my commute to work and I'm sitting and play the game and there is someone next to me, I will try to hide a little bit when there are goonery animations. It's the same problem that I have with Yuki. Speaking of which, if you check the size, let's say the body type of Arabella and Yuki, very similar, and they're both AoE-centric combatants. What did the developers mean by that? Is it a coincidence? Probably not. But irrespective of that, very cool animations, very cool kit overall. I like the idea of damage over time dealer that can instantly trigger stuff, essentially at will. What I find confusing is this shift from agony to things that are completely different, although similar. I kinda had to sneeze there, so I was trying to stop my nose from sneezing, or future Sir Grandelov will have to cut the video, and that takes a lot of work. We started with agony, and it was a little bit too strong due to certain interaction in cards, and they nerfed it. And now, instead of getting combatants that make agony great again, there must be an acronym for that. Instead of that, we get, fracture, completely different. Similar, but different and much stronger. I have personally built Hilde as a fracture support of sorts, meaning that I got the jewel that automatically plays a lead card at the start of a turn to save an action point, or potentially more. Well, no, it's one action point. What am I talking about? To save one action point at the cost of some of her personal damage. and I'm using the cards that generate fracture instead of those that generate the single target homing arrows. Uh, just because I wanted her to be ready on day one for Arabella. I'm still not sure how I will be building Arabella because the basic cards, of course, have to go. Uh, of the remaining cards, the one that I showed earlier, I have not seen any that really made me think like, man, this is trash. Wait, let me go to the cards though. Like there isn't any card here that makes me think, oh, this is bad, I probably want to remove it. Like they're all fantastic ways of dealing damage, buffing herself, activating fracture. So it looks like she's going to be a combatant like Hilde. Hilde, I basically don't remove any of her cards after the basic ones. Because they either cycle themselves because they have draw, or they have an effect that is so strong that you just keep them in the deck. And for example, when 9 was released and I had a look at their cards, there were two apart from the basic ones that I immediately thought that I want to remove this trash from the deck. And the same is it's the same for many combatants. Like I always mention Cobalt Strike for Serenial, which is absolutely abysmal. Here they all look really strong. Different epiphanies that are better or worse depending on the situation. On day one, I will not be too concerned about Omega tryharding. I think the best way to go for a day one Arabella is going to have a save file where you do not use all your copies, but you keep one available just in case you find out that, oh, this card is really really good, I want an extra copy. Because there is one other card which is a unique, and that's problem solved, the one that generates fracture amplification. The others can all be copied. They're all good. So it's very difficult. I hope that on day one, my first run will not have a Cthulhu weapon, because getting the perfect save file equipment, while not being exactly sure about which cards I want to copy, how many copies, and all this sort of stuff, can be a pain. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to the release of Arabella. She looks absolutely glorious. And I'm looking forward to our new damage over time queen. Bye guys, take care.